Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over an upcoming severe weather event for parts of Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and then back through into southern Florida as well. We're going to be timing this out for you guys and giving you all the information you need to know so that you can prepare for this severe weather event. We have warm conditions further west, cold conditions further east, and that's going to allow for somewhat of a decent severe weather event to set up right in the middle there. So again, we're going to be timing it out for you guys, showing you how severe these storms could get, and generally just giving you an idea of what you should be expecting and preparing for with the severe weather event. Now, here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. Definitely not too active today. We have some high wind watches in effect, and also some wind advisories in Northern California, Southern Oregon, as well as some more wind advisories for Southern California, and in Northern Arizona some wind advisories are also there. We have some red flag warnings in western Arizona and southern Arizona as well. And then we have some winter weather advisories in the higher elevations of Southern California and for southern Colorado and northern New Mexico also in the higher elevations. We have winter weather advisories also in effect for northern upstate New York in the Adirondacks, as well as some more flood warnings from the Mississippi River all the way up through the Ohio River Valley, and that area right along the Ohio River is where you have the most severe flooding out of that previous severe weather event that rolled through the Tennessee Valley, brought a lot of rainfall to those areas, and unfortunately they are still recovering from that event. So hopefully they are recovering well, and hopefully the issues that they are having with all that flooding will get resolved soon. The high temperature for the entire United States, the entire continental United States yesterday, was in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. They got to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The high temperature was also tied there in Immokalee, Florida, and hopefully I didn't butcher that name too badly. They also got to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The low temperature was in Mount Washington, New Hampshire. That's at an elevation of 6,000 feet up, so that's a very high elevation in the Northeast. That's why they got to negative 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Many of the lower lying areas got to negative 10, negative 5, 0 degrees in most of those areas, and the highest precipitation or rainfall report was in Meadville, Mississippi. They got 1.79 inches of rainfall. The snowfall data, unfortunately, still not available. So as soon as they get that back up and running, I'll add it to the continental United States records. But as of right now, they just don't have them up as of right now. So here's what the severe weather storm prediction center is showing for the risk of thunderstorms there. On the left hand side is where we have for tomorrow. That's your risks for tomorrow. On the right hand side is what you have for Friday. Now, we have a general risk of thunderstorms back anywhere in that light green, with a marginal risk in that darker green there for western Oklahoma and the northeastern panhandle of Texas, as well as in that same area that's under the marginal risk, that they have a 2% chance of hail occurring throughout those areas. So, or actually a 5% chance of hail occurring throughout those areas. And then for the day after, on Friday, we have a general risk from about southeastern Oklahoma down through eastern Texas, western Louisiana, and then another very small portion for extreme southeastern Louisiana there, where we also have a threat of severe storms. Now, here's what the NAM3 model is showing. So I'm going to play this through and give you an idea of what you should be expecting in the Oklahoma area, and then we'll kind of shift the radar over to parts of the southeast where your next threat of storms will be occurring. This is going to be a fairly dynamic low pressure which started out in Southern California and that moved further east. By this point, it's right around here, and it's spinning away. It's cut off from the rest of the jet stream pattern, so it's really an independent system with a dynamic looking shape to it. And is going to be heading further south into the east, actually, because of how dominant the high pressure to the north is, and also how dominant the trough to the east is as well. So all of that is going to shove this further to the south, and it's definitely an interesting pattern that we are currently in. So this would be by right around 9 a.m. Central Time, here to be by 12 p.m., and we're looking at more of those scattered light, really nothing too major to deal with up to this point, up to noontime on Thursday. So we're not dealing with any problems yet, but It's right around the 4, 5, 6 o'clock hour when the thunderstorms start to get up and rolling. So you're starting to see a few yellow shadings pop up there as the low pressure heads further to the east. And by this point, the low pressure is right around here. As that continues to head further east, it's also bringing in a lot more energy with it. That low pressure being centered right over there is allowing more of that energy to be pulled up further to the north and to be generated. So we get a line, or a broken up line, of fairly severe storms moving throughout parts of central and western Oklahoma back through southern Kansas. As we get to right around, this would be by right around, I believe, 9 p.m. Central Time. We're dealing with those thunderstorms moving through, and then this would be by 12 a.m. on Friday, and we're dealing with more scattered, broken up thunderstorms still moving throughout areas around Oklahoma City and central Oklahoma, and then that's gonna continue to roll through parts of Oklahoma. We're not seeing this move around too much, and eventually it starts to head further south and east. So your low pressure kind of did this. It went from the panhandle of Texas, moved into central Oklahoma, did a bit of a loop-de-loop, and now it's going to start to head out, and it's going to start to head further to the south and east. And finally, your severe weather or your thunderstorms will continue to move out. If we look out at the zoomed out radar, and we just skipped forward to Saturday morning, in between that time period, we're just dealing with a very light thunderstorm activity. Not even thunderstorm activity, I think you could call it. Maybe just showers, rain showers. So really nothing too important back throughout this area. Maybe a rumble or two of thunder, but this is where the storm starts to develop again, and that's when we start to see the stronger areas of rain start to develop again. So here would be by Saturday morning, March 6th. We're dealing with that low pressure offshore south and west of Florida by this point, and now we're starting to see fairly actually strong severe weather moving through central and southern Florida, and then you even see some of those oranges, reds pop up. That's where you're dealing with actually fairly intense rainfall. This would be by right around 1 p.m. Eastern time, and we're looking at much of the southern half of Florida under some sort of severe weather activity, and then finally, as that low pressure moves far enough south, it's all the way down, by the way, because of this big trough into the eastern United States. We have this low pressure going down as far south as Cuba there. So this is a very unusual pattern, especially for March. Usually we have these storms moving all across the U.S. This storm is going to be so suppressed that it's further south than Florida. It's all the way down to northern Cuba by this point, and then it's going to continue to head offshore. The thunderstorm activity, of course, tapers down as we go through the evening hours on Saturday. So here's how much rainfall you're looking at. If you live in the Oklahoma area, including parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, back through Texas and Arkansas as well, and some of the surrounding states as well, we have right around half an inch plus for much of the central part of Oklahoma and also northwestern Oklahoma, western Kansas also dealing with a fair amount of rainfall. That should actually help with some of the drought issues that some of these areas are having, especially up through Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, even getting a little bit. That should definitely help with some of those drought issues. You guys have some fairly decent drought through those areas, and that's definitely gonna aid that relief from the drought. And then we have 1 inch plus amounts scattered throughout parts of central Oklahoma. It's really gonna depend on exactly where those storms do end up setting up. So here would be the rainfall forecast from the RGEM model, which is the further out model, the model that we use to show what's happening in southern Florida, and they're looking at maybe half an inch plus up to about 1.5 inches. So anywhere where the heaviest rainfall sets up, I think you could get 1+ inches of rainfall. Where you're just getting kind of grazed by these storms, you maybe get over 0.3 of an inch of rainfall. And you could also see what I was talking about back through here. There really isn't a lot going on. Some light rain showers is just about what you're going to be dealing with. Nothing really too convective or severe, in my opinion. Here's what the max temperatures or the high temperatures for Thursday are going to look like in the Oklahoma area. We have 60s throughout these areas. So most of the area is actually above 65 degrees. Anywhere about south of this line right here is where you're above 65 degrees. And 65 degrees is the rough benchmark of what you want to be in order to have some severe weather. The really warm temperatures are further south back through here. So we're not dealing with overly warm temperatures. If you look at the dew points, definitely not impressive at all. We're pulling in maybe 50 degree dew points. You really want to be above 60. So we're about 10 to 15 degrees short on the dew point level for the severe weather. So we really don't have a lot of the ingredients for a big severe weather outbreak. That's why it's going to be more of a minor event, more of an isolated event, and the storms are mainly going to just be thunder and lightning, a very low chance of some small hail. And then, of course, we could see, scattered wind damage depending on how severe these storms actually do get. And here's what the precipitable water looks like. Again, we have very dry air in place. This is where we have very dry air further to the west, where you have basically no water in the atmosphere. Also to the east, again, very dry air. And then right in between there is where we have semi-humid air. We really have no water content in the atmosphere to produce these storms, so they're going to be fairly weak. We have maybe above half an inch of precipitable water to about an inch in most of these areas. Precipitable water, by the way, is if you were to squeeze all the water out of the atmosphere, how much you would get if you were to instantly squeeze all that. So we're looking at maybe half an inch of rain within the higher parts of the atmosphere. Not a lot to work with. Usually you want to be above about at least 1. Usually you want to be above 1.2 or 1.4. Here's what the wind shear looks like. We also don't have too impressive of wind shear. The main southern jet is further south, and also the northern jet is further to the north. We have that trough back through Canada. We have a low pressure back through the northern and central Rockies. So that's diverting your jet stream away from the Oklahoma area where the severe weather is going to be taking place. You do have some divergence though in the atmosphere, so we do have winds changing in direction right around Oklahoma and northern Texas, so that could help a little bit with the severe weather. It could get the severe weather going a little bit. And if we look at the Cape, because this is also going to be important, the convective available potential energy, this is showing you, of course, how much energy you have in the atmosphere. You usually want to be above 500. You're going to see that as we play this forward, you have a few pockets of 500 plus, but it's not really too impressive. I mean, the bigger area is going to be lower than 50 or lower than 250 Cape for most of those areas, and that's really not enough to work with. You can see the only area that has the Cape with a stable amount is through western Oklahoma and the northeastern panhandle of Texas, and that's the area that was under that marginal risk. If you look at the rest of Oklahoma, you really don't have a lot going on in terms of the Cape, and you can see that through the entire event, you really had no Cape or energy with that event. And if we look at the supercell composite, this is showing you how likely it is that you're going to get a supercell to develop, and a supercell is a rogue storm that can create some potentially tornadoes at times, and also some gusty winds. The higher that number on the side is, and the more deep the shade of coloring is, that's the more likely it is to happen. When you're right under 2.5, 3, 3.5, you want to really be above 4 to get a decent chance of that happening, and you really don't have that occurring. We have some okay amounts. You could definitely see a supercell or two pop up, a weak one, but it's not really too impressive in terms of that. And the STP, the significant tornado parameter, usually you want this to be above a 1 for tornado development, and we have a few pockets maybe getting above a 1, but luckily there aren't a lot of areas that are above a 1. When you're under a 1, that means it's possible, but it's not really too likely at all. So luckily we don't have any real tornado threat with this event. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications. I'll keep you updated on this event, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.